Flip and I have seen the future, and we know who's winning the Stanley Cup this season.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all platforms, which also includes YouTube. So please follow and subscribe. Flip and I appreciate all the support we get from all of you out there listening to the pod. I'm Steele Roden. I recently graduated from sports broadcast journalism college in downtown Toronto, as well as I've been doing podcasts over the last couple of years. You can check out some of my content on YouTube at NHL Quick Hits. This is Big Flip Livingstone. He's worked at The Score, a freelance writer for Dober Hockey, and he's done a lot of content creating over the last couple of years. Today, Flip, it's going to be a shorter episode. We're looking, we're heading into the All-Star weekend, so it's going to be a shorter episode for today. Of course, we will be giving you our lock of the nights for Wednesday's games. We will touch on some DFS options potentially. We might not be able to get to it, but that is in the back pocket. But today we are going to start off with the best odds for the Stanley Cup champion this year. And Flip, I got to say, looking at the top 15 teams that, the odds right now, there's some juicy picks right there.
There are some juicy picks, Steele. There's also, just looking at the board all day, obviously in preparation for this show, and you mentioned it already. It's a little bit of a dry time in the NHL schedule, if you will. So we wanted to give you a little bit of a look ahead, a little bit of an opportunity to, do a little sprinkling of a couple of bets that could really make you some money. I really always like a future bet from just a pure gambling perspective. It allows you to potentially make a bet and leave it and hopefully win and build that bankroll up for the whole year. But like you said, Steele, we're trying to really feed you some value because sure, everyone could go out and pick the Colorado Avalanche, who are currently the Cup favorite, and that might be a bad pick. I think right now they're at plus 450 or something like that, plus 425 at some books. And they are the favorite for good reason. But I'm not going to speak for Steele here, but I think what we're both going to try and do is look at a couple of teams that have a little bit maybe better odds. Would you say, Steele?
Yeah, that's exactly what I've done so far. And, I'll go ahead first and start with my first, the best option that I saw from all the odds so far today. And I'll get going with the Pittsburgh Penguins at plus 1,400. And for me, this team is an absolute beast when completely healthy, which they pretty much are healthy right now. They are missing a couple of depth guys like Jason Zucker and Teddy Bluger. So not like big name guys, but of course, their team is pretty much 100% healthy at this point, knock on wood right now. But like I said, they're an absolute beast of the team in the playoffs. We're talking about some of the best playoff performers ever on the Pittsburgh Penguins: Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, even Jake Gensel over the last couple of years has been putting up stellar numbers in the playoffs. Of course, he is playing with Sidney Crosby on that top line, but nonetheless, he's been an absolute stud for them the entire season so far as well. And then on top of that, you have a top 5, maybe even top 3 goalie in Tristan Jarry this year. So at plus 1,400, I'm kind of shocked it's that high right now. I would, sprinkle some loose change on the Pittsburgh Penguins at plus 1,400.
Well, my friend, my first pick was also going to be the Pittsburgh Penguins. So great minds think alike on that. I actually have them here at, and the odds fluctuate all the time. Plus 1,400. I have plus 1,500. Search around for where you can find the best odds. We'll talk about a little bit of that later. But the Penguins cannot be ignored. The angle I'm taking here is the window for winning is shrinking in Pittsburgh. I think that's obvious, right? Malkin and Sid, they are who they are, but they're also getting up there in age, both in their, mid to, almost late 30s. Injuries has obviously been an issue for the team, for those two players, but the window is shrinking. And, these players are smart. They know the clock is ticking on their time to make a run. And I like that factor, especially with two guys like Sid and Gino. They've also played unreal this year, even with injuries up and down the lineup. Like literally all three of their key pieces in Letang, Malkin, and Sid have all been out for periods of time. There's another guy that you mentioned playoff performance track record. Jeff Carter is a guy you want in your lineup when the games go to those clutch moments. Again, Father Time's catching up with him too. But at plus 1,500, when you have a mix of guys like that, along with all these sneaky guys like the Gensels and the Rodriguezes and the guys that can maybe, get the puck back to these key players and kind of win those foot races, at 1,500 or even plus 1,400, this team is definitely worth a little 40 or 50 or even $60 sprinkle bet. And one more thing I would like to say about why I really do like the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it might not be something that most people think about, is I love their front office. Ron Hextall and Brian Burke are two hockey minds that are not going to let this window of opportunity pass in terms of what I was saying, in terms of a shrinking window. I think they could make a big move at the deadline. Even, I don't mean necessarily big name move, but an impactful one that kind of really positions the Penguins well for that last push. Because who knows, with injuries and time catching up, this could be the last kick at the can for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, I like everything you just said right there, especially Jeff Carter. I was going to mention him as well. And, they actually just, signed him to a 2-year deal over the last month or so, I believe. So, yeah, he's been a big part of the reason why they've been so great this season as well. And, right beside the Pittsburgh Penguins, I have the New York Rangers. That's my second team I'm looking at right now at plus 1,700. Some great odds there to sprinkle some money on. Again, another top 3 goalie for them in Igor Shesterkin. They have a pretty good backup in Alexander Georgiev as well. So, with Shesterkin playing the way he's playing right now, I would ride the Rangers all the way. This is a team that I was highly touted on last season to go really far into the playoffs, even potentially make the Stanley Cup finals. And I was very shocked last season for them to even not make the postseason. So I love the fact that they've bounced back really well this season so far. I love their top 6 forwards, Artemi Panarin, Ryan Strome, Mika Zibanejad. Adam Fox is a complete stud. He is on the IR right now, but it's only an upper body injury. He should be back after the All-Star weekend. Right. And then another reason why I'm so high on this team is they have some big guys on their team and it just bodes well for them heading into the postseason because it becomes way faster, way more physical. So for me, having a guy like Reeves, guy like Trouba, Kreider, even Lafreniere has been throwing his body around this year. Barclay Goodrow, Dryden Hunt as well. So they have a lot of guys, not just on the defense, but even offensively. Big bodies who are not afraid to throw their weight around. And that is prime playing in the postseason. So I think it bodes well for them. And at this point in time, I think everything is lining up perfectly for the New York Rangers. So for me, heading, with the odds as great as they are right now, I actually might put $20 on the New York Rangers at plus 1,700.
Yeah, and I think that's really what we're looking at here, right? Don't go and bust out the pink slips and put the farm on these necessarily. Hey, if you're feeling it, go nuts. But, these are situations where you can really just look for some value. Don't get crazy with the bet. Sprinkle a couple of 20 or 30s around, and you might get lucky. It's funny because the Rangers, I almost put the Rangers down as my second pick, but I almost knew you were going to do that too. So I went a little bit more off the board, and I didn't want to just pick another Eastern Conference team because in terms of like the order, I'm pretty sure it goes Colorado, so West Conference team, and then I think the next 7 favorites are all Eastern Conference teams. So Vegas is on to something here in terms of where the balance lies, which is funny because maybe over the last 15 years or so, you would say the West is almost assuredly going to have the winner come out of there. All those years with the Kings, even the Ducks in the mix. So it's kind of interesting to see that shift a little bit. So I went a little bit way off the board. And you can, I'm ready for the hate already, but at plus 3,000, the Edmonton Oilers are a team that when you look at the Pacific Division, hang with me here, Steele, hang with me. The Pacific Division as it stands today, First and sixth place, are separated by 8 points. The Pacific Division is absolutely wide open. If the Anaheim Ducks have a shot at that division, then why don't the Edmonton Oilers with the two best forwards in the West have a shot at that as well? The addition of Evander Kane, we don't know what that means yet. We don't. It could be huge. It could mean nothing. He might not even finish the year on the team. But at plus 3,000, when that division is still wide open, just basically on that perspective, and I know you're not liking this already, they have a shot. And for a 20 or 30 bet like I just spoke about, they're rounding into form. If they can hold it down and actually stay a little bit healthy as well, which is like you can say that for any team, the real thing is in between the blue paint. I don't hate it. $20 at plus 3,000 for Connor McDavid. There's worse odds out there.
Flip, you're throwing your money away if you're putting $20 on the Edmonton Oilers. There's
you know
no
what? I'm just
chance.
doing 30 then, just to spite you.
Flip, there is no chance the Edmonton Oilers make it past the second round with Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen in net. There is no chance whatsoever.
I'm pretty sure Tim Thomas won a Stanley Cup, but I'm just saying.
That's completely different from comparing him from Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith.
Bad goalie? Bro,
it's not even complete.
Like, I'm not going to sit here and defend the Edmonton Oilers goaltending. But what I do love is the situation in that division. They could honestly, by the time we record another episode next week, the division could be flipped on its head and Edmonton could be in first. So I'm just saying they're
not in first.
They're 8 points out of first right now and winning. So I'm just saying, when I was looking at some value in the Western Conference, you're not going to find a ton anywhere else there. Like I said what I said, and I'll stick to it. For the value, it's not an awful bet, and I will revisit this because of how angry you are.
Yeah, we'll get back to it later in the postseason and see how well they do. And, I like the fact that you did choose an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference team. I was going to go with the Minnesota Wild, but I thought that would have been a little bit biased on my part, so I tried to stay away from them, even though they're at plus 1,400 and the odds are good. But what I'm not being biased about is Built Bar. Built Bar is covered in 100% chocolate, real chocolate for that sakes. And it contains 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, and 4 grams of sugar. It's absolutely delicious. And the fact that they just have so many different flavors just makes it more appealing to me all the time. There's coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, salted caramel, cookies and creams, mint brownie, and many more. In fact, Built Bar is always coming out with new limited time flavors. So you have to go to Built.com often to see what kind of limited flavors they come out with. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your next order. I'll say that one more time. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey your first listen every day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all platforms. That also includes YouTube. So please make sure you subscribe and follow us on all platforms on YouTube. We appreciate all the support. That being said, let's move into the final segment, Big Time Bets. That's Flip's favorite segment all the time. That's where the money's at. And Flip, I'll throw it over to you. What are you feeling for Wednesday's games?
So we talked about this, Steele, and like I mentioned, this is a tough game, tough night from a betting perspective. Only 5 games in the NHL. And when it comes to like these major points on the schedule in any season, in any sport, really, you can't help but feeling like guys' heads might be in different places, looking ahead, looking to vacation, who knows? So, I will say disclaimer on betting tonight, just, go easy, save all your money for the Edmonton Oilers future bets to make Steele a little bit more rattled. No, kidding. But we're going to go a little easy tonight. I got 2 picks for you. My lock of the night will come after I hear from Steele. But you mentioned the team that I'm liking the most. I'm not getting crazy here, Steele. The Minnesota Wild have been nasty of late. They're rolling. They're one of those teams that, and I've said it about Nashville, I've said it about other teams. They're almost, they're greater than the sum of their parts. They're a balanced team. And I think when you roll into a town like Arizona tonight, you just can't, like, Minnie's 4-2 in their last 6 trips. And And why am I messing this up? They're not playing Arizona, are they? They're playing
Chicago.
Chicago Blackhawks.
I was going to wait for you to finish there. I was going to wait
okay.
for you to finish.
I'm looking at my notes here. It's all gravy, baby. They're 4-2 in their last trips to Chicago, in their last 6 trips. They're red hot of late, and I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. Chicago's season is over, and Minnesota is a very well-coached team that I don't think have any reason to look ahead. Beat the pants off of a really bad team that you've played well against already of late. Especially in their own barn. Minnesota is one of the best road teams on the league. I don't think I need to say any more here, Steele. Minnesota on the money line, minus 170. I could see this being a low-scoring game, but I think that favors Minnesota in maybe a 3-1, even 4-1 fashion. So if you're feeling spicy, sprinkle on the under as well. But Minnesota Wild on the money line is my first bet of the night.
That was actually my first bet too. So you pretty much covered everything. Wild on the money line. Both Flip and I agree on that one. So you might as well agree on that. Put some money on the Wild money line Wednesday night game. So I'll just get into my second and third pick, which coincide with each other.
Please do.
It's the Edmonton Oilers money line at plus 120 versus the Washington Capitals. I know I'm taking the Washington Capitals Tuesday night against the Pittsburgh Penguins, but that's why I'm going with the Oilers on Wednesday night. So for me, the Capitals are playing a back-to-back. The Oilers are going on the road against the Washington Capitals. Like you said, I just feel with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, I feel this game going up against the Washington Capitals. So Oilers money line. And then on top of that, I've got Connor McDavid anytime goal. He only has 4 goals, 11 points against the Washington Capitals in 8 games. So it is one of the teams he's played the fewest amount of games against. But I feel a Connor McDavid goal coming up in this Washington game.
I like that. I was feeling the Austin Matthews breakout the other night, and boy, did he break out in a big way. So sometimes you just can't really explain it or put your finger on it, and you just have to trust us, because trust me, we watch way too much hockey. We look at way too many betting boards. And we're starting to pick up steam here, and I like those picks, Steele. But it's weird. Weren't you just talking smack about my Edmonton Oilers? But okay, we'll leave it. We'll save that for another show.
All of a sudden, they can't win a game.
All of a sudden, no, I'm kidding. I'm loving it, man. And here we go with my lock of the night. We've been hitting these player props ever since we started doing this every night, so I can't go away from it. I'm looking to a game featuring the Calgary Flames. In Arizona. That's where I was getting confused last time. They're up against the Coyotes. Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk on that top line have been absolutely beasting lately. I know their last game was a 1-0. I think it was a shootout, but Gaudreau had it in the shootout. He's been hot. He's got 8 goals and 13 assists for 21 points career in 24 games against Arizona. So he has a good track record against Arizona. Like I said, he's clicking with Tkachuk on the top line with 9 points in 5 games. I'm loving the Gaudreau anytime point for my lock of the night. He could get a couple of assists. He could score here. I like that top line to continue to roll. As much as they had trouble against the Canucks putting up any points. They are a dangerous line right now. And against the Arizona Coyotes, we like beating up on these bad teams. We're not overthinking this one either. I like Johnny Gaudreau and the Flames to stay rolling. Johnny Gaudreau, anytime point against the Arizona Coyotes, my lock of the night.
That's a pretty good lock of the night. And, I'll just make it easy for everyone here. My lock of the night is the Minnesota Wild money line. I think that's an easy dub for the Wild over the Chicago Blackhawks.
Interesting. That you're just going that way. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, just do you, Steele. At some point, you're just going to have to get weird and just, sprinkle some money on the board, and that's okay too. But if you're looking to sprinkle any more money, BetOnline, it has you covered. This season, more props, more odds, and better lines than ever before. Football's still continuing. We got the Super Bowl coming up. Bet.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. And good luck tonight with your picks, guys. For Steele, for the Locked On Fantasy Podcast Network, we thank you very much. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts. We very, very much appreciate the support. Thank you for making us your first listen. If you want to check out something else, there is tons of content all across the Locked On Network. Make that your second listen. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.